came here on your own free will to talk to us. We picked you up at your request and brought you here. You can get up and leave at any time. You don't have to talk to us. If there's a question you don't want to answer, don't answer it. If you don't want to talk anymore, just tell me I want to leave. And I'm kind of in the way of the door, but you're not being interrogated as a criminal suspect. We're here to understand your relationship with Chris and what you know about Chris and his family, and events relating to Chris Watts.
I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. It was pretty casual. And he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids.
That sounded like a sarcastic comment.
No, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, he's a dad. It was like right around Father's Day too. So whenever that is in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not good with holidays.
He told me he had kids, and then it was Father's Day shortly after that. So that's what I do now. And I was like, I thought it was cute. And then he's telling me about him. He's pretty excited about him. And then he mentioned that he did have a significant other. And then he told me that those 2 were in the process of a separation.
Did he mention the children's name or his significant other's name?
I didn't know his significant other's name for a while. And then I think he told me his kids' names pretty quick, but to be honest with you, on an exact date of when that happened, I don't know. I go put my lunch in the fridge. So I'd seen him, but I didn't ever, talk to him. So that day we just started talking, and then every time I saw him in the hallway after that, and it was always hit or miss, it wasn't an everyday thing, it was just when I saw him, we just started talking, and we just kind of had a lot in common and just hit it off, so we'd always have, pretty good conversations. And then, I don't know, one day he told me that he had kids and started talking about his kids, and then mentioned, yes, that I have a wife, but we're getting separated. I said, okay. And then,
when do you think that was?
When he said all that?
So specifically when he told you he was getting separated from his wife, was that within the first couple of weeks that you knew him, or was that later on? You said you met him around May or June. Yeah,
it was still in June.
Okay.
It would have been before Father's Day.
So had you guys ever gone out on any kind of
no.
date at that time? You just
No.
Conversing at work?
Yeah, that's all it was. And then, I don't know, we started hanging out. We hung out. We went to a park. Hung out at a park.
Let's go back real quick. So why did he tell you that he was getting a divorce? Did he ask you out at that time?
No, he didn't. I think he was probably interested in me. And so he talked to me a couple times via his work phone, and I was like, no. It was still very friendly conversation. But then when I realized this man is interested in me, I'm interested in him, this is personal, so we got away from the Anadarko thing because I really don't want those guys affiliated with any of this. And
so you have a work phone that specifically...
No, I have one phone that I do both on. He has 2 phones.
Okay, so he had your phone, the 720-656.
That's the only number that I roll with all the time.
Okay.
So he has 2 phones.
All right. One of those owned by Anadarko and
Yes,
one
sir.
personal.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what his Anadarko phone number was? Okay.
It's been so long, and I'm sure I could look it up, but I tried to look it up for those guys yesterday, and I couldn't find it.
Okay. We can find it. That's okay. Just wondering.
There were several discussions that we had about his current relationship and where it had gone and what it had caused. And he talked about his kids from time to time, but the thing is he was never hostile. It was never anything aggressive. Even when he spoke of his wife and the fact that they were separating, it was never ill. It was still very kind. It was just this is not working, and would explain why, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary or anything that I think would scare me. And to this day, even after everything that I found out, I still look back at that and I don't see any red lights with the way that he spoke of his family.
Okay.
I don't want to say he's a very reserved individual. I think he's probably more reserved around other people. I think he emphasized to me that one of the reasons that he really enjoyed talking to me is because he felt like he could get out of his shell. He said around most people he just like didn't really feel the need to like talk and converse, and it wasn't just in his home life, just in general. It wasn't something where he's an introvert. And he said with me, it made him feel like he could really just start talking about things that excited him. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we had things in common. So with me, I think he was a little bit more outgoing, but even then, I would still consider him to be an introvert.
No. So you never saw him upset or mad?
No. And there was a couple times that we had some disagreements on things that as we like further progress into this story, you know, but it was never, like, I am very calm when I talk to people. It's like extremely rational when I handle situations that there's a disagreement in, and he always was the exact same way. Like, always. Like, I never stressed anything. I think one thing that actually kind of drew me to him was the fact that he was like very open with communicating with me if there were any like differences on how we saw things or just like open-minded about things. It was actually, I personally thought it was kind of unique, because usually most of the men that I've ever met are typically very closed off, and I didn't get that from him at all. But I've been to that house twice, but it was very, very brief, and it was not like an extended stay. I did not feel comfortable there, or like I just didn't want to be there. It's not my life. Like, that is somebody else's life and somebody else's existence, and I respect that. That's their space. And so I used to tell him, well, come to my house, because this is our space. This is my space. And so for me, out of respect just for like whatever situation he had going on and the fact that it's not my home, I felt that it was better to be in my place. And I live alone. I don't have any roommates or anything, so it's pretty easy to do that.
So just, you went to his house on 2 occasions.
Yes.
Was that recent?
No, that was like pretty early into it, and I did not like it and did not want to go back.
Do you recall where, the streets?
I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out again if I like really had to. Like, off the top of my head, no.
Do you know the street name?
No.
Okay.
I would have to like drive around in there to get there.
Okay.
She didn't swing the wrench. She didn't bury the bodies. And she didn't show up in court. But her fingerprints were everywhere, digitally. I deleted it because I was scared. Nichol Kessinger was supposed to be just a name on the side. The woman he met at work. The one he whispered to late at night when his wife was asleep upstairs. But after August 13th, 2018, she became the shadow the entire world couldn't stop chasing. She said she had nothing to do with it. Said she was just a woman in love. Said she didn't know Shannon was pregnant. Didn't know he was still living at home. Didn't know anything until it was too late. But her phone told a different story. Her search history lit up with names, maps, and questions no innocent person would ask. She Googled the wife. She Googled wedding dresses. She Googled how to wipe your phone clean. And then she disappeared. Chris Watts became a household name. He was sentenced. He confessed. The father who killed his pregnant wife and daughters. But the woman he said he killed for? She was never charged. Never put on trial. Never held accountable for what she knew or when she knew it. This is not just the story of a family destroyed. This is the story of whispers behind closed doors. Of digital footprints left behind. Of a woman who said she was scared, but not sorry. Because in every true crime, there's the killer. There's the victim. And sometimes, there's someone who walks away. This is Nichol Kessinger, the other truth in the Watts murders. Crimes used to leave fingerprints, footsteps, strands of hair. But in the digital age, the most damning evidence is silent. It hides in your phone, your browser, your deleted messages. And Nichol Kessinger's digital trail was anything but clean. July 24th, Nichol types in a name, Shannon Watts. It's not a typo. It's not random. It's the first breadcrumb in a trail of obsession. She scans through her photos, watches her videos, sees her pregnant belly, the smiling children, the home, the life. She never tells Chris she looked. She never tells investigators until they find it themselves. Over the next 2 weeks, Nichol searches for more. Wedding photos, family pictures, gender reveals. She's not detached. She's not in the dark. She's studying the woman she's about to replace. August 3rd. Nichol types another phrase. Man I'm having an affair with says he'll leave his wife. She's not asking what's right. She's asking what's next. Chris starts talking about apartments. New beginnings. Freedom. His phone fills with secret messages. I want to give you a son. You make me feel alive again. I can't stop thinking about our future. Nichol eats it up. Sends him playlists. Sends him love notes. Sends him hours of attention. Her Google activity spikes late at night. And Chris, meanwhile, starts searching for hidden folders. How to delete conversations. How to cover your tracks. Then comes the day that changed everything. August 8th. Nichol opens her browser and types, "Can cops trace deleted text messages?" Then, how to prepare for a new relationship. Then, Amber Fry. Amber Fry, the mistress of Scott Peterson. The one who testified. The one who didn't know she was part of a murder story until it was too late. Nichol knew that name. She knew what it meant. She wasn't just Googling. She was imagining herself in the middle of a storm, one that hadn't even happened yet. On August 11th, Chris and Nichol are still texting, still talking, still planning. That night, Shannon comes home from a business trip. She walks through the front door. It's the last time anyone sees her alive. The next night, August 12th, at 9:30 p.m., Chris calls Nichol. That call lasts 111 minutes. By the time it ends, the house is silent. By the next morning, Shanann, Bella, and Celeste are dead. August 13th, the same day Shanann is reported missing, Nichol calls Chris again. And again, and again. She texts him. She asks no hard questions. She doesn't alert the police. She doesn't tell her friends. She just keeps calling. When the story breaks, when the news hits that a pregnant mother and 2 children have vanished, Nichol finally comes forward. She meets with investigators. She gives them her phone. She says she's devastated. But before she handed it over, she deleted everything. Texts, photos, call logs, browsing history, all of it gone. She says she panicked. Says she didn't want to be dragged through the mud. Says she was trying to move on. But the phone doesn't lie. Data recovery tools pull back fragments. They find deleted calls. They find auto-suggestions from recent searches. They find evidence that she was trying to erase herself from the story. But some trails can't be erased. Investigators piece together the timeline. The 111-minute call. The deleted texts. The Google searches. They overlay her calls with Chris's movements. They see her pulling back only after the public sees through him. The world starts asking questions. Why didn't she call the police sooner? Why didn't she tell Shanann? Why was she researching the wives of murderers? And if she had nothing to hide, why did she delete it all? In court, she never appeared. She was never charged. But her silence, her searches, her deletions, they screamed louder than words ever could. Chris Watts may have killed his family. But Nichol Kessinger? She buried the truth. Or at least, tried to. When the spotlight hit her, Nichol Kessinger didn't run. She walked into the police station with her arms crossed, her voice quiet, her eyes darting. She said she wanted to help. She said she didn't know. She said she was as shocked as anyone else. But almost nothing she said matched the evidence. Investigators let her talk. Let her explain. Let her contradict herself. She said she thought Chris was divorced. But her Google history showed she had been digging through Shanann's Facebook weeks before the murders. She said she didn't know Shanann was pregnant. But Shanann's photos, public, clear, unmistakable, were right there for anyone to see. She said she wasn't sure where Chris lived, but she had been to his house. She said she didn't know much about the children, but Chris had shown her photos, told her about their routines, their names, their lives. She told investigators she didn't press Chris about Shanann, that she respected boundaries, that she didn't ask too many questions. But her searches told a different story. Wedding dresses, moving in together, how to erase your digital past. She kept saying one thing, but the truth kept saying another. Detectives asked her about August 13th, the day Shanann and the girls were reported missing. Nichol said she called Chris to check in, said she felt something was off, but she didn't call police, didn't call Shanann, didn't stop contacting him. She even Googled news reports about Shanann's disappearance before the media storm began. She wasn't just reading, she was tracking the story as it unfolded, minute by minute. Then came the moment she couldn't explain. The 111-minute phone call on August 12th, the night before the murders. They asked what she and Chris talked about. She said she didn't remember, that it was just a normal conversation, that it wasn't important. But no one believes you spend nearly 2 hours on the phone with a man who's about to kill his wife and children and never notice a thing. She told detectives she didn't ask about his family that night. She said she didn't see this coming. She said she didn't know anything was wrong. But then she deleted her entire phone. Not just one text. Not just one call. Everything. That wasn't panic. That was a purge. Interrogators watched her body language. She wrung her hands. She tapped her foot. Her answers came too fast. Or too slow. Or not at all. Psychological profilers call it leakage, when the truth seeps out of the lies, and you can't hold them together anymore. She said she wanted to cooperate, said she had nothing to hide, but she refused to take a polygraph. She claimed she didn't need to. She said she didn't want the pressure. She said she was already overwhelmed. But the detectives weren't asking for pressure. They were asking for clarity, and all they got was silence. To this day, there are people who believe she lied to police, lied to herself, lied to the country. Because when you listen closely, her story isn't just full of gaps, it's full of cracks. Moments where her voice trembles, where she stumbles over her own timeline, where she blames confusion for facts that don't add up. They didn't charge her. They didn't arrest her. They didn't hold her accountable. But they watched her, studied her, compared every word she said to what they already knew. And by the time she walked out of that police station, they weren't asking if she was involved. They were asking how much she wasn't telling them. The trial ended. Chris Watts was sentenced. The story should have been over. But for millions of people, it wasn't. Because one name kept echoing across the internet, across newsrooms, across kitchen tables. Nichol Kessinger. She wasn't charged. She wasn't mentioned in court. But she was everywhere. Online sleuths pulled public records, cross-checked interviews, watched interrogation footage frame by frame. And what they found didn't sit right. It wasn't just her lies. It was her timing. The way she pulled away only after Shanann's body was discovered. The way she claimed innocence while Googling how to disappear. The way she deleted her phone, then sat across from investigators and said, "I'm just trying to help." Public trust fractured. Rage grew. Forums lit up with theories, not just about what she knew, but about what she might have done. Some believe she was in the house the night Shanann was killed. That the 111-minute phone call wasn't a conversation, it was a conspiracy. That she was pushing Chris to act. That she gave him an ultimatum. That she knew exactly what he was about to do. They point to her search history, her sudden panic, her pattern of deletion. Others go further. They believe Nichol helped clean up, that she coached him, that she waited while he drove his daughters to the oil site. There's no proof of that. But there's no proof that she didn't know either. Then came the leaked audio, a voicemail she left for a friend, saying she didn't want to be the next Amber Fry, that she never wanted to be known as the other woman. But by then, it was too late. Shanann's family was devastated. Her father called Nichol the monster who started it all, said she lit the match that burned everything down. He wasn't alone. Thousands of people flooded social media with anger. Petitions demanded charges. Investigative podcasts re-examined her role, frame by frame. One detail became a lightning rod. The job application. Nichol reportedly applied for a federal government position after the murders. Some believe it was a cover, a relocation tool. Others claim she was offered protection, not because she was innocent, but because she knew too much. Her last known address vanished from public record. No more updates. No new interviews. No attempt to clear her name. Just silence. And in that silence, the theories grew louder. Some said she was in witness protection. Others believed she fled the country. Some said she changed her name and started over, just like Chris promised her they would. But the real outrage wasn't just about what Nichol did. It was about what she got to walk away from. A triple murder. A pregnant woman. 2 children. A family destroyed. And the woman who many believe was the spark? She never stood trial. Never faced a courtroom. Never had to explain the truth, under oath. That silence became a second crime. One that didn't leave bodies, but left millions of people haunted. Because Nichol Kessinger didn't just disappear from the public eye. She disappeared from justice. And that is something no one can forget. When the trial ended, Chris Watts was locked away for life. No parole. No appeal. No freedom. But the other name in the shadows, Nichol Kessinger, she didn't go to trial. She didn't stand before a jury. She didn't have to. She disappeared. Her phone wiped. Her address erased. Her social profiles gone. For years, she was a ghost. A memory. A whisper in internet forums. People speculated she'd changed her name. Moved out of state. Entered witness protection. And then she was seen. April 2025. Billings, Montana. A quiet funeral service. A live-stream procession in a small-town church. The camera panned across the pews, and there she was. Older. Heavier. Pale. Hair darker. Pulled back. She walked slowly down the aisle, face bowed, hands folded. But people saw her. They paused. Rewound. Froze the frame. It was her. Nichol Kessinger. Not a rumor. Not a theory. A woman back among the living, but still hiding in plain sight. She didn't speak at the funeral. She didn't stay long. But her presence sent shockwaves through the viewers. It was the first confirmed sighting in 7 years. She had aged. The weight of isolation showed in her face. Her body language collapsed inward, like she was still trying to make herself small enough to forget. But the internet didn't forget. Screenshots went viral. Comments exploded. People asked the same questions all over again. Why was she there? Why now? Why did she think she could walk into a church, into a funeral, unnoticed? And beneath all that noise, one truth remained. She had been watching. She had been moving. She had never been far. The church, the weight gain, the new name, none of it erased what she'd run from. She didn't swing the wrench. She didn't bury the bodies. But when the world looked for someone to carry the guilt, they found her. Chris Watts will die in a cell. But Nichol? She lives in a different kind of prison, the kind you carry with you. Even under a new name. Even in a different state. Even while standing in a church, trying to mourn someone else's death. You can never bury your past, because sometimes it rises. Just like you did. And walks right down the center aisle. Chris Watts confessed. He told the world what he did. How he strangled Sean Ann. How he smothered Bella and Celeste. How he dumped their bodies like trash beside an oil tank. He said it was rage. Said it was shame. Said it was love, a twisted love for a woman who didn't ask him to kill, but never told him not to. Nichol Kessinger never faced charges. Never stood trial. Never spoke again. But silence can speak volumes. The searches. The deletions. The timing. The disappearance. The reappearance. Heavier, quieter, haunted, at a church funeral in Montana. A woman whose face once burned through every news feed, now hiding in a pew, bowing her head. She said she didn't know. She said she was scared. She said she wanted to start over. But for the families left behind, for the investigators who still replay her interviews, for the millions who have memorized every second of this case, the questions never stopped. Did she suspect the murders were coming? Did she help him plan an escape? Why did she stay so long in the shadows? And why, now has she returned? There are no more courtrooms left. No indictments waiting. The story is legally closed. But justice isn't always what gets written in the files. Sometimes, justice is what lives in the questions that refuse to die. Why did Shannon have to die for a man to feel free? Why were 2 little girls buried so their father could hold another woman's hand? And why did that woman, Nichol Kessinger, get to disappear, then reappear, without a single consequence? Some say she was just a mistress. Others say she was a motive. Maybe she didn't kill anyone, but maybe she lit the fuse. And long after the blood is gone, the house is sold, the headlines fade. She will still be the one name the world can't quite let go of. Because in the story of Chris Watts, she wasn't just the woman he loved. She was the reason he erased his life and everyone in it. And the unanswered questions? They're hers to carry. Forever.